Hello. Well, today I'm here to talk about a film I saw not too long ago. It's a film I mentioned coming out this year, at the very end of this year, and it's a movie I was quite interested in seeing, and that is, of course, The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone. This is the version that Francis Ford Coppola always wanted people to see uh, from the version that was shot. Because, there is the version that wasn't made because Robert Duvall never reprised his role as Tom Hagen due to salary uh, disputes and all that. He wanted a fair uh, amount of money, but Coppola said he wanted the same amount as Pacino. Duvall says that's not true. And in any case, well, Tom Hagen was written out of the film, and it was implied that he passed away between the second and third installment. And having seen this film, yes, I'll just say I think it's a fine movie. Same with part three. It's the same film. The plot and everything is the same. There's nothing, overtly different. Only, of course, that scenes are switched around. Uh, Such as the very beginning of the film begins with Michael talking to the Archbishop, which obviously happened later in the film with part three. Um, and there's other instances like that, and it's actually quite interesting to see how this is the version that Coppola wanted people to see. Uh, it definitely flows uh, very, very well, I think. There's a bit of a spoiler at the end of the film, or I might talk about later in the video regarding the end of the film. Um, uh, but as I said earlier this year when I talked about all the Godfather films, I enjoy Part Three. I think it's a fine movie, and seeing it as an epilogue, I am able to appreciate it and enjoy it more, as opposed to if I had never heard that Coppola and Mario Puzo intended the third film to be called, uh, you know, The Death of Michael Corleone, and seeing it as an epilogue instead of just the third part of a saga. Uh, you know, from the moment I heard that, I was able to then see the third film like that, able to see it as an epilogue. And I think I'm able to see this as an epilogue too. You know, I guess I could just get the spoiler part of it out of the way, because referring to the title, uh, the death of Michael Corleone is more of a spiritual uh, metaphor than the actual physical death of him. Because as we know in part three, the very end of the movie, Michael falls over and dies alone. It's supposed to sort of like repeat his father's death of part one, but in that film, his grandson, Michael's son, uh, Anthony, is there, and he goes and gets people who then uh, find Vito, and the funeral happens. Where in part three, he's essentially he's alone in the house that he had with he lived in Italy with Napolina, and is essentially sitting near where she died. And so from that, you know, it's a symbolic uh, moment in the trilogy. Shows the similarities and differences between father and son in that regard. In a way, you know, Vito had family around him when he passed away, and with Michael, he doesn't. There is a dog, but the dog doesn't really seem to do anything. He's just lying there. Uh, so yeah, doesn't seem to be totally alarmed by Michael falling over. So essentially, there's nobody nearby. You know, uh, after uh, Mary dies, it seems to be like it's a symbolic that he's now alone, and that's it's very interesting, especially since in this version that is cut, we don't see him fall over and die. We see him put his sunglasses on and sit there, and that's it. It cuts to uh, black, and then has some words, and then that's the end of the film. I don't want to spoil, I guess, the words that are said because, well, I don't know. There are some people who like that and some people who don't. I guess it'll be up to you to watch the film and see what those words are. If it means anything or has an impact uh, on the film at all, or if it's just one of those things that seems to be possibly pretentious of Coppola to do. Um, some people think it's dumb that is how the film ends. Some people were upset that there were no alternate takes given that, like Sofia Coppola scenes, for instance, like they didn't take alternate cuts of scenes and reinsert those instead. But, you know, as I have said before, I've never minded Sofia Coppola's performance. She's not the best actress. She never wanted to be an actress, first off, and she only did it because Winona Ryder dropped out of the film just before they began to film the movie, so she could do um, Edward Scissorhands. So from that, you know, I don't have a big deal of Sofia Coppola playing Mary. Could they have gotten somebody better? Sure, but on such short notice, it's understandable that you know Coppola asked his daughter to step in, and she said yes because she wanted to help her father. Um, I'll definitely have to uh, rewatch this film, this version more. Obviously, I've seen part three many times over the years. I'm familiar with that version as opposed to the Death of Michael Corleone version, where it's now appropriately like a title, the epilogue version that Coppola wanted. Whereas if you just watch part three, in mind that this is the uh, the epilogue of the trilogy. I don't know. With this version is helps. I think with the epilogue portion of it that Coppola always wanted to get across, but of course where he was at that point in his career. He was no longer on top anymore. Um, he had various flops throughout the 80s. Um, but yeah, this film is it's still fine. Definitely have to rewatch it multiple times. Uh, but yeah, my first impression is it's a fine movie. Uh, no worse or better than part three, but maybe that my thoughts could change. Maybe I'll like this more than part three. Maybe I like it a bit more, or more, or like it less. I don't know. It's one of those things that definitely have to rewatch it multiple times. But yeah, this is definitely it's an interesting watch. If you enjoy the Godfather films, I'd say give it a watch. If you don't like it, all right, maybe you'll if you're gonna watch a part three, like a version of it, you'll just watch part three. You're not gonna watch this. But I think this is worth a watch for sure if you're interested or curious at what Coppola wanted to be released. And it's 5 minutes shorter than part three. For instance, in the midst of shuffling scenes around, they also remove some things. I think the most prominent is Kay dancing with Michael at the end when they have those flashbacks of Michael dancing with the women of his life. Obviously, Apollina and him are that's moved further into the film. Kay and Michael dancing in part two is not included, nor is the flashback of Fredo being killed. Excuse me. That's not included here, so there's some other differences. Maybe that'll have an effect uh, uh, on one's viewing, or maybe it won't. Um, but yeah, I see this version no worse or better than part three. Um, Again, that opinion of mine could change over the course of time. Uh, but it is nice to be able to watch the version uh, of all the stuff that was shot for the film that Coppola intended to be seen back in 1990. Uh, it's just shocking that it took like 30 years for it to come out. But, better late than never. Uh, yeah, all in all, this is not a bad film. Uh, I've never thought Godfather 3 was bad. It's definitely my least favorite of all of them. But even then, ranking, I still enjoy them all. I think they're all really good. They're all excellent films. It's just I prefer to watch 1 and 2 more than 3. But at times, I do a marathon of all of them, and I always include 3. I never skipped it. I don't. I'm not somebody who just acknowledges the movies I enjoy the most and then never watch the one I'm not as big of a fan of. Same with like these horror franchises I enjoy, like Friday the 13th. uh, I always watch the movies when I watch um, have a marathon of them. I always watch the ones I'm not as fond of. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's all I have for today. It is Christmas today, um, so Merry Christmas. Hope everybody, if you celebrate Hanukkah, hope you all have had a great Hanukkah. Hope you have a great Kwanzaa as well. Hope your Christmas is going well and holiday season and all that good stuff. Uh, yeah, I hope you've all had a good week. Um, I might take a break next week from making these sort of videos. So I doubt there will be one next week. But yeah, the week after I will definitely make another video for sure. Just sort of want to take a little bit of a break since the year is closing out. Um, but yeah, I hope you all have had an amazing day. Hope your Christmas is fantastic. Uh, Hope you have a great weekend and a great week next week. And hope you have a happy new year as well. I know this year hasn't been the best for everybody. Um, Overall, for myself, for me personally, I had a fine year. Some bumps here and there, particularly with the end of the year for certain personal reasons I don't want to get into on this video. Um, but overall, uh, this year was no worse or no better than any of the other years. Obviously, I've had some years that are a bit better, but overall, this was not a terrible year for me. Um, uh, if you all had a mixed year, like some had good times, some had bad times. Hopefully, next year will be better. Um, if you're sort of like me, uh, it was overall mostly good, but some bumps along the way. Again, I hope your year as well next New Year will be great also. Um, it's always good to be positive, especially around this time of year, New Year's. If you're able to be around friends and family, I'm sure that will help. Uh, but yeah, I wish you all a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, have a great day, and have a Happy New Year. I'll see you next time. Bye.